Hello everybody, welcome back. I am the Chornick. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to review Pokemon episode 88, 9, we'll know one day. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to review this episode. All this episode was pretty much about was Serena and Eevee. And ladies and gentlemen, this was a pretty darn good episode, I have to say, for myself and for everybody. But anyway, this was a pretty good darn episode, I think. For Serena, and finally capturing a new freaking Eevee, or freaking Pokemon, I should say. Catching just a brand new Pokemon in general, like, that's just, boo, finally, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, guys, let's get right into this, all hyped up. This episode was pretty darn well. I'm finally glad that Serena got her third Pokemon, and basically how the gist went down in this episode is, let's take it from the top, ladies and gentlemen. First off, we come in this episode, you know, Serena's talking. Usually, when Serena's talking, it's a Serena-based episode. I mean, obviously, we already knew that it was a Serena-based episode based on the previews and stuff, but pretty much just whenever an episode starts and Serena's, like, talking the majority of the time, it's pretty much a Serena-based episode. Something I've just been noticing the entire time. But anyway, guys, so Serena's talking, blah, 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 and all of a sudden they reach the field and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna send all my Pokemon and play. So then all they do is throw their Pokemon out, and all their Pokemon play with each other. It's really nice to see these Pokemon interact with each other every once in a while. It's really neat to kind of see that and see their, you know, relationships with one another. And it's kind of, it was kind of fun to see that. Later on, Serena makes like this flower headband, or whatever you would call it, for, you know, Bonnie, and for her, and for Dedenne, and, you know, she made these headbands and stuff, and so it looked a little pretty, I guess. And then, you know, Dedenne's had like this little headband that fell off, and then Pantrum and Dedenne ran for it. And then they caught it by a rock and they put it back on Dedenne's head, and Dedenne was all happy. And then Pantrum all of a sudden noticed there was like this Eevee over there on this rock. And then Serena came over and she noticed it. And she's like, whoa, this Eevee. Like, what the heck? That thing looks awesome. So Serena then stares at this thing, stares at Eevee for quite a while. And then Eevee, you know, Serena's just like, I want that so much. Like, I want that Eevee. Like, with a huge passion, like a big huge passion, like she wants this Eevee. Eevee's just dancing all around, looking like it's, you know, the shizzle, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, so Serena just stares at this thing and just watches it, and like weirdly, stalkerly kind of watches it. And then Ash all of a sudden yells at her. He's like, Serena, blah 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 blah. And then Serena's like, no, don't, Ash, you're scaring it away. Well, she didn't really say that, but it was probably going through her head. And then Eevee runs off. So sad. Anyway, she can't stop thinking about this Eevee, though. She wants this Eevee. She wants to talk to this Eevee. She wants to be with this Eevee. She wants it so bad. She was staring at it, and then, you know, later that day, she's like, you know what, guys, I want to find this Eevee. This Eevee needs to be mine. So she asked Clement and Bonnie and Ash to all help her in finding this Eevee. And they go out and try to find this Eevee, and, you know, they don't really find Eevee. Really, well, Serena does, but, you know, because she almost fell off a cliff, and Eevee's like, hey, whoa, you're about to fall off a cliff. And then, you know, Serena's like, oh my god, I almost fell off a cliff, thank you so much. But could you come here? And then Eevee's like, no, and then Eevee's like, no, let me go, blah, blah. So Eevee runs off, and Serena's like, no. So anyway, so then we had Clement and Bonnie trying to use the Pokepuffs to try to attract Eevee, but and it did, but Clement and Bonnie weren't looking. But Bumblebee saw Eevee take one of the Pokepuffs, and, you know, Bumblebee was like, he was like, you know what, yeah, you could have that Pokepuff. You know what, you could have Pokepuff. I don't tell anything. Don't worry about it, yeah? I got you. So then Eevee was like, oh my god, thank you, and took the Pokepuff and ran off, you know? And then, you know, acted like he didn't see Eevee and didn't tell Clement and I almost said Bumblebee, Bonnie about it. So, and then Jespin appears out of nowhere and tries to attack the Pokepuff, but it wasn't there anymore. And so then Clement and Bonnie were like yelling at him, saying he stole the Pokepuff when in reality Eevee did. But anyway, later that day they couldn't find Eevee again, and, you know, Serena was in her tent all sad. She couldn't sleep, you know, she was contemplating this Eevee. she couldn't sit down, so she got up and she walked outside, and her Pokemon followed her out there, and she was like, guys, I just can't stop thinking about this Eevee, man. And Pokemon was like, no, I understand. So, and, you know, they walked up into the hill and looked back at the rock, and there was Eevee again, but this time it had the you know, the headband that Serena made, you know, that they left on some rock in the woods, and so it started dancing with this headband on, and Serena was like, oh my gosh, it has to be mine. Just look at it. Just, oh my gosh, guys, look. I just want that so bad. So anyway, then pretty much later the next day, Serena was wanting to attract Eevee again by putting on a performance for Ash, Clement, and Bonnie on the rock, in which Eevee always practices her little, you know, show on. So that's what Serena did. They put on a little show, and then Eevee came, like, it actually worked. Eevee came and, like, watched it, and then Serena, like, looked over and noticed that Eevee was watching it, and she was like, yeah, it worked. Now, Eevee, listen up. You know, you should come with us. If you want to perform, you could be professional, you could be awesome, people love you, you know, come with me, come with us, look how good we are. And then Eevee's like, ugh. And Eevee was contemplating walking back and forth, and Eevee's like, I don't know, man, I want my freedom, though, you know, I want to be with them, you know, and be able to perform awesomely, but freedom, you know, of the outdoors and all that good stuff. So Eevee was kind of contemplating going back and forth, you know, giving up its life in order to perform like its dream is, or to sit and have freedom and not give up its life to Serena. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Team Rocket jumps out, grabs Eevee, and Serena's like, no! And then, you know, Team Rocket's like, yes, and then Jesse's like, I want this Eevee, get? And then Serena's like, oh no! And sends out Breaksin and Pantrum to go take down Team Rocket. And then all of a sudden was able to break the cage in which, you know, Eevee was kept in, and Eevee was flying out of the sky. Serena was like, no, and like was like running dramatically towards Eevee, and, you know, jumps like, you know, Ash always does when all of his Pokemon are about to like hit the ground or something, like okay, overly dramatic kind of. But, you know, she jumps out, you know, she dodges all of the, you know, the bullet seed bullets, and she just catches Eevee and lands on the cold hard ground. And, you know, then Eevee like looks up and she's like, oh, and then she ran off starts running towards the woods, and so she didn't even look like she was appreciated of the fact that Serena just caught her, but she just was like, no, I'm getting out of here, okay? And so she ran towards the woods, but then Jesse's like, no, come back here, and then Serena's like, no, and like slid her way in between Jesse and Eevee, and then says, no, I'm not letting you take Eevee. Let Eevee have her freedom. It's okay. And then Jesse's like, no, it's not okay. And then Jesse attacks Serena, but then all of a sudden Eevee's like, oh, I gotta do the right thing, and comes in and uses Protect, and was like, nope, yeet, not gonna happen. You're not gonna hurt Serena. So then, you know, she protects Serena there. And then, you know, Pikachu comes and uses his Thunderbolt to blast Team Rocket away. Yay! End of story, pretty much. But anyway, then, you know, she became, you know, nice, you know, they, you know, pretty much accepted Serena, and then basically just, she caught her. I mean, Serena caught Eevee, but Eevee looks like it has that kind of personality where it's afraid of all the other Pokemon. It looks like that might be something that she has to improve into the future. She's not really afraid of Serena, and she's not really afraid of Bunnelby, probably because of Bunnelby's nice gesture that he did for Eevee earlier. So who knows if something's going to happen between Eevee and Bunnelby, or if it's going to be something between Eevee and Pikachu. Who knows? But I didn't really see anything with Eevee and Pikachu in this episode, that they had any connection or talking or at all in this episode. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed this review. I love you all. I can't wait to see you in the next video that I make. Thanks, guys, for watching. I love you all, and peace out! Thank you very much.